Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 246 of a year of change and the beginning of our new week. We finished off a couple of weeks of carbohydrates. We took a bit of a break, then we had 2 weeks of carbohydrates, sort of. It turned into sort of 1 week of carbohydrate. I was going to leave it there. I was going to try to say carb, and then I went, no, I better say carbohydrates. I hesitated. So there are 1 week of carbohydrates, and then 1 week where we didn't really sort of touch on anything. But a lot of what we were looking at, we sort of done before. We've talked about, the good and the bad of everything, and that's pretty much what today is going to be about as well. As discussed yesterday, made up my mind yesterday, and today we're actually going to start in on fiber. We're going to leave protein for the very, very, very last. Now, we have talked about this before. A long time ago when we started talking about, it was on a Wednesday, we did grape tomatoes, and we briefly touched on fiber then. So a lot of the information that we're going to be going through today, some of you may already know, some of you may not. Maybe you're just starting in late. If so, hi. But a lot of what we're going to be doing today is just sort of getting things, sort of rehashing old things and stuff like that. But getting things prepared for the next couple of weeks. But the change that we're going to actually, before we get into that, we need to do our weigh-in. I did do my weigh-in. I had a rough couple of days. Friday, I wanted to sort of celebrate the end of my night shift into my day shift with a new job. So I went over Friday, went slightly over Saturday as well. So I did my weigh-in this morning. As always, weighed myself 3 times. They was all the same number, so that made me feel better. But I still lost. I still lost a pound, so not too bad. And there's probably another pound of pizza in there sloshing around somewhere. So overall, even with those 2 bad days, I did all right. Not as much as I would have liked, but that's the price to pay for having a day of rum and pizza. So what can you do? Anyway, so we need to do our weigh-in as per usual. But the change that we're going to be doing today, it's not going to be a major one. I know it's kind of weird because none of them have been, but this is something that a lot of us have already done. Over the past 8 months at this point, when we've been making our changes, just by going for the healthier option, like going for whole wheat bread instead of white bread, going for fruits and vegetables, like adding those into our diet, going for nuts and things like that rather than M&Ms and Skittles and stuff like that. Just those little tiny changes, there's been a huge difference in our diet. So, right now, I went to take a look at sort of how my numbers have been going, and even eating the way I'm eating, I'm still not getting enough fiber. So, there are a couple of different recommendations that, I actually am going to put in the description below. I'm going to put a couple links here for you, so you can go in, you can take a look, sort of the standard places I go, so the Mayo Clinic, Harvard Health, stuff like that. Just for a little bit of information on fiber. And we'll go through it as well, but there is a recommendation that they say that we need somewhere between 35 and 40 grams a day. For women, it is a bit lower. I think it's around 30 grams. But just for the sake of argument, we're going to say 35 for everybody, just so that we know what we're doing. Now, going back 8 months, sort of the weekly average that you would be having is probably way, way below that. But even now, eating what we're eating, it's still below where it needs to be. I'm cracking 25 or 30 week to week, and that's eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, and I eat whole wheat bread because I don't really care for the taste of white bread. But it's trying to strike that balance can be difficult, because in order for me to get the amount of fiber that I would need in the run of a day, I need to eat 8 apples a day. Just to sort of give you an idea. There are other things that you can do. If I would need to eat 4 cups of shreddies as well. There's another one. Like a high fiber cereal. You still need to eat quite a bit in order for you to get all the fiber that you want. So for apples, if I was to eat 8 apples and they're 80 each, 640 calories right there. So there's an entire meal of just apples. And 8 apples, there's no way you're going to eat that in one sitting. I could do it if the Coro apples were still in season. Damn you, Southern Hemisphere. So, but they're stuck. I have to wait until next year, which is fine. It's okay. I've learned to deal with it. I'm going to try to find an alternative, and I have not found one yet. But you would need to eat 8 apples in the run of a day, every day, to get your fiber, or 4 cups of shreddies every single day. So it is difficult because when you say, well, then I can do that. I can eat high fiber foods. The thing is that fiber makes you feel full very quick, and it keeps you full for a longer period of time. It absorbs water, so it swells up. So generally, when you need to drink more fluids to go along with it, which we will get to in a moment as well, because we're going to do all the stuff going in, we're going to do all the stuff coming out. But in order to get the amount of fiber that you need, for the majority of foods that are out there, you're still looking at anywhere between 600 and 900 calories. Shreddies is fairly high in calories for the amount that you're getting, but it's because there's so much, there are carbohydrates in there, there's fiber, there's very little sugar and sodium, but it's just because of how it's made up. And so trying to get that balance of going, well, I need to stay under my calories, but I need to bring up my fiber content, all the other stuff mixed in with the carbs that we were looking at and the fat and the sodium and the salt and everything else, it can get a little confusing because you say, well, if I raise my fiber intake, I'm going to go over my calories for the day. But if I stay below that, and switch it out for this, then my sugars are going to go up. But there are some things that we can do to help that along. And especially where we're just sort of focusing on this now. When you go back, I can tell you anyway, this is where we're going to start going to the stuff coming out. There was always, at some point, there were always intestinal problems. Being obese is one of those things that you accept it. That you go out, you get bread, milk, butter, Imodium. It's something that you always have in your house. Because we're eating so much food. And it's shit food. We're eating cookies and cakes and, just incredibly high-fat foods and buckets of cheese and, nachos. And then we'll sit down and have 3 pounds of meat. There's no balance whatsoever. And it's just horrible stuff all the time. And you fill yourself so full, to capacity as much as you can, as often as you can, that your body just has no alternative but to just move it out as quickly as it can. So unless you are eating stuff that's going to keep you all blocked up or bunged up or however you want to look at it. But Imodium was always one of those things that I just always had to have in the house. This is going to turn a little gross. Sorry. But this is the reality of it, that we've all done this. We've all gotten to that point where, we know, oh, this is going to turn out bad. This is really going to be bad, but I'm going to keep eating it. So having those intestinal problems, one way or the other, is sort of a sad reality of being obese. And to a point where, when you go out for the day, you're like, if I eat that, I need to make sure that I have access to a toilet somewhere. So, but since we started improving how we're eating a lot more in the way of fruits and vegetables and just eating healthier in general, getting, whole grain things instead of white bread, even whole grain pasta as opposed to regular pasta. Little things like that, you've probably noticed that the bouts have not been as frequent. And this is really personal now. I cannot remember the last time I had an issue. And I haven't really gotten sick or anything like that, but I'm trying to think back, and it would have been, at the very least, at my worst, a weekly occurrence. Just something where and it's not even really where you go, oh, this is a really bad day. It's just that it almost becomes commonplace because your body's just trying to process so much all the time, and it needs to get rid of it as quickly as it can. Which I suspect is part of the reason why we don't get a lot of nutrition out of as bad as the food is. We probably don't get a lot out of it anyway. Or it might be, here's the thing, because on one of the documentaries that we did, we saw that when people were eating less healthy, then it stayed in their system longer. So maybe that's it, and maybe just because we're eating so much that it's just you're constantly full, all the way. There you go. That's your intestinal tract from your mouth all the way out. Just one big tube. So when you think of it that way, maybe that's what it is. It isn't the fact that it's trying to get rid of it as quickly as it can, so much as you're already filled to capacity, and then the second that, well, for me anyway, the second I wasn't full anymore, I would just eat more. So you're constantly piling more and more, and eventually, like anything, once it gets full, it's got to go somewhere. So if you're not going to barf it out, you got to poop it out. So one way or the other. So, and I haven't thrown up in a very long time. So anyway. That might be part of it. We sort of got off on a track there for a minute. But just making little tiny changes that we have been making, you've probably noticed that there's been a huge difference in just, how am I going to put this? The medical term, I'll use that. That way everyone understands what it is. It's probably been a very, very long time since you had explodey poops. There we go. That's the medical term for it that we're going to be using from now on. Or being all blocked up. What's the other word for that? No poops. There we go. But because we've been adding healthier foods in there, that fiber has been getting in. Now, the weird thing is, I have looked at MyFitnessPal, and there are some things that I'm going through that I'm thinking, well, maybe it's not tracking the fiber. But I've gone through everything, and yeah, fiber seems to be in there when we put stuff in, and it seems to be accurate. So, obviously, even now, our diets aren't where they need to be. But trying to jump and say, okay, well, from now on, I'm going to eat all bran every single morning. We aren't going to stick with that. Even I'm not going to stick with that. And I like shreddies, which is, they're pretty much just wheat. So there's plenty of bran in there. But the thought of going just to a cereal that you're just horrible all the way around, I'm not going to do that. So, but there are little things that you can do to sort of help things along. And a lot of these we have done. So we don't really have a number goal in mind. Not to say, well, we need to get up to 20 grams of fiber a day. We can strive for that, but go through your little entries in MyFitnessPal and see where your average is right now. And no matter where you are, whether you're at 1 gram or if you're at 40 grams, then you're probably okay. But if you're at 1 gram or whether you're at 30 grams, whatever it is, try to raise it even by a gram as an average throughout the week. Not per day, because that's going to be a little difficult because we're already trying things. But you can go in and you can take a look at what your average has been throughout the week. And no matter how low it is, just like we sort of did with sugar where we need to drop it by 10%, we just need to raise it by something. So we're going to keep things very, very small for this one because this has a much more direct impact. The sugar and the salt and everything else, it's more of a palate thing. So we did need to sort of cut way back quickly because if we just said, well, for the sugar, then I'm just going to cut it out completely. That's too much. But if we were to say, well, I'm going to have, instead of 4 sugars in my coffee, I'll have 3.5. It's not going to make that much of a difference, and it would have taken too long. But with the fiber thing, this is something that's going to be ongoing. And you're going to know much better than anyone else as to whether or not you think, you know what, I should probably add a little bit more. So I'll have, extra salad, or I will change my cereal so I'm having Shreddies instead of Fruit Loops, or whatever it is that you're doing. But the vast majority of the stuff that we've been doing so far has been adding that in there anyway. Even things like vegetables, the amount of fiber that we've been adding in there has been helping over the past few months. And it's one of those things that, I've noticed because I sat down and sort of started figuring all this stuff out, and I was trying to think back and go, it has been a really long time since I've had any issues. So I suspect it's been the same for a lot of you out there as well. Now, there are some things that you can do to help increase the amount of fiber that we're doing, or that we're taking in. There are 2 different kinds as well. We'll talk about that because we did this when we did the tomatoes. All right. The first kind is soluble fiber. That's fiber that dissolves in water and basically just sort of adds bulk and, it turns into a gel, to give you a rough idea. It doesn't entirely get digested. You don't really absorb anything in there. And just for the record, for those of you that are saying, oh, well, I got to take out carbs. Fiber is a carb. Fiber is a carbohydrate, and we do need it. So there you go, all you low-carb people out there. So there's the soluble fiber, which is the kind that dissolves in water. And what that does is it turns into sort of a gel. It helps coat stuff and adds bulk to it and, moves things along and helps us digest things. Well, it doesn't really help us digest things. That's not true. But that's the one type of fiber. It basically just sort of keeps things nice and smooth and soft. That's a horrible thing to do because when you think soft, you're thinking, yeah, he's talking about poop again. Anyway, the other type is insoluble fiber. This is something that just does not break down. That it comes out the same way it goes in. For example, corn gives you an idea. But just regular things like tomato skin. We talked about that as well when we were doing the grape tomatoes. The inside, like where the seeds are, things like that, that sort of fleshy part, that would be the soluble fiber. You're going to break that down. It's going to help move things through. Everything will be fine. The insoluble fiber is the stuff like the tomato seeds and the skin. Things like that your body doesn't digest. You don't really take anything out of it. It absorbs water, but it doesn't really do anything, like nutrient-wise. It does actually, because it absorbs water, it does increase in size, so it gives you that bulk. That's why you feel full for longer, because it doesn't digest down properly, and it absorbs water, so it swells up. So it's like drinking like a paper towel, or drinking a paper towel. There's an awesome analogy. It would be like eating a paper towel. That it is going to, or a sponge, it's going to increase in size. Oh, I picked a paper towel. Or a tampon, there you go. Or a tampon or a sponge or something like that. So because it increases in size, it's going to fill you up longer. And because it's insoluble, it doesn't actually turn into a gel. It doesn't really, I want to say mold or mesh or squeeze into places that it shouldn't. But the insoluble fiber will actually sweep through because it's not being digested. So aside from just adding to what you've been eating, I don't really want to start saying, oh, it's empty calories, so eat more. It is helpful because it helps sort of move things along with the soluble fiber. But these are things that we do need. So when you're eating fruits and vegetables, there's fiber in that. The majority of that is going to be soluble fiber. The skin and, well, you wouldn't really eat apple seeds. There are some things, the pomegranates that we had a while ago. That's a prime example because the fleshy part that's around the seed, that is still going to have some fiber in there. A lot of it's just going to be water and things like that, but that's going to be soluble. You're going to be able to break that down. It'll turn into a gel and add to all the food and just keep things a nice, even consistency. The seeds themselves, though, your body isn't going to digest that. So those are going to sort of get passed through and bulk up and help sweep everything through. And there are a number of different things, or reasons why that's a good thing. We talked about cholesterol a long time ago. And there are some studies that show that the soluble fiber will help sort of clean out the bad cholesterol, the LDL, the low density lipids. Does that sound right? I think it is. I think so. Anyway, that's the bad cholesterol. So the same thing that the good cholesterol does, the soluble fiber will do as well. So it does. There is a function to it, all right. But trying to add those little bits of extra fiber in there during the run of a week shouldn't be too hard for the vast majority of us now, because we have switched to a more vegetable and fruit heavy diet. We've added things like that in there. For those of you that have switched over from white bread to whole wheat, or even if you have like a bread maker and you're making your own, switching from white flour to whole wheat flour that way. If you do what I do, and usually what I'll do is I'll have the serving of regular cereal, and then I throw in a handful of oats. That would be another soluble fiber one. If you have just like the rolled oats, because all that's in there, they just sort of steam them and squish them and everything's good that way. Those would be soluble fiber as well. But steel cut oats have the sort of like the shell, a lot more bran in them, and that's insoluble fiber. So depending on if you're looking for porridge or rolled oats or whatever it is that you do, it is a little bit easier to sort of add that in there. And sometimes that's all it's going to take. Is just grab a handful of oats, throw it in your cereal in the morning, and that's going to increase it. It's going to help. So it's not going to be a matter of saying, well, we have to reach our goal every single day, because this is one of those things that you're going to know more than I will how much you're going to need. And sort of, I know this is a very, very simplified layman's term, or layman's outlook, I should say. But taking a look at, basically, are your guts good? You're probably okay. If you're still having some issues, then definitely go through MyFitnessPal, take a look at what your fiber intake has been, and see if there are places that you can add in there. And it may be just as simple as saying, you know what, I'm going to switch from white bread to whole wheat bread. That may be all it is. Or try a multigrain bagel instead of a regular bagel in the morning. Or throw in a handful of oats to your cereal. It doesn't have to be something that you do every single day for every single meal. With me, I tend to have, the majority of the stuff that I get is going to be in the cereal in the morning, and then fruits and vegetables throughout the day. And I'm sure that there are some things that MyFitnessPal really isn't tracking that way, but for what we're doing for our goals, we need to assume that it is tracking everything properly. Because in my head, I'm thinking, I feel like I'm eating a lot more fiber than that, but apparently not. So the goal, I guess, for this week, the change for this week, is to go back through over the past 2 or 3 weeks and find out, here's a good idea. Instead of just saying, well, I need to increase it by some blank amount, go through for the past month, all right? Take a look, and there are 2 ways that we can do this. We can either go through and look at what our average was for the entire month. Or you can go through and find out what the highest week was that you had for your fiber. And go through, find out roughly what you ate during that week. And it might be something that, like me, like the apples, I haven't had apples in a very long time, that has cut back. So maybe you just think, good enough, I'm going to go out, I'm going to buy some more apples. Whatever it's going to take to sort of get you back up to that highest level. Or if you're taking an overall average and they're all fairly close, then look at your average and say, good enough, I want to raise that by 1 gram or something. Just something to help increase that. Now, I wouldn't really recommend, you can do this, but buying foods that say with added fiber in there, you can do it, but it's not really the same. Fiber is fiber, so it's not going to matter. It's insoluble, so whether you get it from pencil shavings or whether you get it from a tomato, probably not going to make too much of a difference. But the easiest thing to do would be just to keep, doing what you're doing with the diet that you have now. And if it's just a matter of saying, good enough, I'm going to eat, I keep saying good enough. I don't know why, that's a new tagline, catchphrase, tag catches. Anyway, if it's a matter of just eating more grape tomatoes or buying pomegranates again or whatever it is that you decide to do, just to sort of keep things in line with what you've been doing. You don't need to go out and say, all right, I'm going to go get some fiber supplements and I'm going to eat granola bars with lots of fiber, because then your sugars are going to go way up, your sodium is going to go way up, and your calories are going to go way out. But again, look at, sort of, I'm trying to get the idea across. Look at how your guts have been acting. I was going to say just poop schedule, but who the hell keeps a poop schedule? If you do, you probably have time to do this anyway. If you find that you're still having some issues, then maybe this is going to help. Obviously, if you're still having serious issues, go to a doctor. There's a reason why they go to school for so long. Go to your doctor, listen to them before you listen to me. But if you can do something like switching to whole wheat bread, or if you can say, you know what, I'm going to have a handful of oats in whatever cereal that I normally have, that little bit extra is going to help. And that's all that we're going to be doing for these changes for fiber, because this is something that you're going to need to gradually do. Because if you just all of a sudden go up and just eat a whole bunch of fiber and your body isn't used to it, then you're going to go too far the other way. Because fiber does absorb a lot of water, so you need to increase your fluid intake when you're eating it. So if you're just saying, well, I'm just going to increase the amount of fiber, but you're not increasing the amount of water that you're taking in with it, then you're going to run into some more issues. And you're eventually going to wake up and go, I haven't gone to the bathroom in 7 days. That's probably not good. So anyway, not a huge change this week, but something that is going to be, that you're going to be able to look at and say, okay, yes, I can change this when I need to. And the main reason for this isn't so much getting our fiber levels up to where they need to be and saying, well, you have to hit 40 grams every single day so that you do nothing but eat and poop and everything will be fine. Because there's, just like everything else, there's that reality in there that, I'm not going to go and buy all bran cereal. It's not going to happen. And although I do like Raisin Bran, the sugar content in that is a little too high, and I'm more concerned with the sugar than I am with the fiber at this point. Because I'm not getting enough fiber, but I can get it through, my oats that I have in the morning, along with my regular cereal. I can get that with fruits and vegetables that I'm eating. And although I may not be getting the recommended amount right now, I'm still getting enough, and it's not worth saying, well, I'm going to buy a granola bar and ruin, sodium and fat and sugar and everything else just for the sake of fiber. So this balancing act is going to be a little bit more difficult this time around. But if you're going through, if you're going through and you're reaching your fiber goal anyway, then don't worry about it. Then you have this week to do whatever the hell you want. There you go. You can go and count how many times you said poop during this video. I have no idea. I'm not going to put a counter up. That's just going to be weird. But for the rest of us out there, try to look somewhere that you can make a small change. And if it's as simple as saying, I haven't gotten to that cereal part yet, then fine, I'm going to sacrifice my corn pops and go get something else. I don't know what you have for cereal. And it doesn't matter what kind. We've been sort of cutting back on the sugar and stuff, so chances are you aren't having like corn pops and Lucky Charms and all this stuff. But try to find something that is going to give you a little bit more in the way of a healthy decision in the morning. Something like that. Switch to a whole grain bagel. Switch to, whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, something like that. Just a little change that's going to help you along the way. And, I mean, we'll do another one, obviously, as things go on. But for this right now, where it's such... it's a little bit different than saying, well, obviously we don't need sugar, so we need to get rid of that. Sodium levels are too high, we're having heart problems, we need to fix that. This is something that it's really going to be dependent upon each person. And you might be reaching your goals and still need more. So maybe your doctor is going to put you on a supplement. Something like that. So it's different for everybody with this. Much more than, I think, sugar and sodium and stuff like that. Because those are things that are just across the board unhealthy all the way around. But where we're looking at things that everybody does need now. I mean, we know that the majority of people don't get enough fiber in their diets. But you don't want to just turn into one of those people that you're just eating nothing but tree bark all the time. Because, again, that's not sustainable. We aren't going to stick with it. So there was something else I was going to bring up. It was a health thing. It's something I read, I think, in Mayo Clinic. Yes, there we go. There are a number of different things we talked about, basically just sort of digestion. That's really the main focus here. And we did touch on cholesterol. There are some other things that say, that you increase the amount of fiber, and there is a correlation, and they believe a connection as well between an increased amount of dietary fiber and a decrease in the amount of type 2 diabetes. So little things like that, and they do compare it with, a low fiber, high sugar diet. But all that information is in the links below. But one thing that I've heard time and time again, and that was one of the main things I really wanted to sort of look up as well, is that people say, oh, you need to eat fiber, and it'll help prevent colon cancer. As of right now, sorry to say, there is no connection whatsoever with that right now. They took a study in, I want to say, it's in the tens of thousands of people. Yes, 16-year study over, I think, 50,000 women. That they took a look at them, increased the fiber amount, and it was a very, very long study with a large number of people, so pretty good to assume that, yes, these numbers are accurate, that there really was no connection between the amount of fiber in someone's diet and whether or not they had a form of colon cancer or anything like that, because that's one thing that you do hear all the time, is that, oh, you need high fiber, it'll help clean you out and get rid of that and prevent cancer and everything else. It doesn't work that way. Cancer doesn't work that way to begin with. Just sweeping out your intestines, it's not going to stop cells from mutating. So, but there is a little snippet there on that as well. But I did want to bring that up because that's sort of, we've tried really hard to avoid anything that says, oh, well, it's a superfood or it's a miracle food that, if you eat this, it's going to lower your chance of having a heart attack by 200%. So it's just, this is one of those things. Fiber is sort of hailed as this, it's a super, super healthy food. It is. It's good for us. We do need it. And especially with us, if you're looking to lose weight, increasing the amount of fiber that you have in your diet, you're going to get fuller and you're going to stay fuller for longer. So you're going to eat less calories. That sounded grammatically weird. You will be eating less calories. That sounds better. You are going to be eating less. That did sound weird. Anyway, we will be eating fewer calories. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. That's why it sounded weird. We will be eating fewer calories if we increase the amount of fiber that we're eating. So just mainly because it absorbs so much water, and fills us up and keeps us full for longer. Anyway, I was intending on this to be a very short one. I tried getting yesterday to be a nice short video, so I was like, you know what? It's very close to the 10-minute mark. This one's way too fucking long. I'm just looking at this now, almost half an hour. I'm sorry, we've done nothing but talk about poop for 30 minutes. Anyway, I think I've got all the information out that I need. I'm going to put a couple of links down below. As I said, there's one to Harvard Health, there's one to the Mayo Clinic. To go in there, take a look, and see the information, which is just rehashing what we've done already. But they do have some examples of some of the different foods that you can go to, and just to sort of, maybe increase the amount that we're eating those. If you aren't eating a certain vegetable enough, say, well, this week we'll add some more carrots in there, or we'll have some more peas or tomatoes or whatever it is. There's a whole slew of them, and you can't go wrong with adding more stuff in there. And that's sort of part of why we want to broaden our variety in our diet as well, so that we have these options. So that we're not just eating one thing and it's not giving us what we need. So that's going to help as well. But for right now, I'm going to leave this video here. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.